I'm Nick Hernandez, and you're listening to the Positivity Matters podcast. Today, it is my great pleasure to have as a guest on the show Lakesha Green. She is the executive director of Union for Contemporary Art. Lakesha, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I met Lakeisha recently at a community dialogue at the Union after the several weeks of the release of a film called My Omaha. One of the people featured in the documentary, Leo Lewis II, and Lakeisha co-hosted this community dialogue, and it was spotlighting other community builders in North Omaha. It felt like just a beautiful extension of what it seemed like the film was intending to do and like spark conversation about building more belonging. Tell us a little bit about you and about being the person creating that experience.
Well, I cannot take full credit. Leo Lewis, when he approached me about, having a space and a place, to do this, I mean, of course, I had to say yes because the work that Leo does in the community and also the phenomenal documentary, My Omaha, it's just, I mean, why not? And it really truly gave the union an opportunity to connect more with community and community leaders. Um, and it also gave everyone a space to just share and just be. I think that's the most beautiful part that I enjoyed in hosting this event and just having conversation because, we live in a society now where conversation is different. We don't have those opportunities all the time to have the face to face and just human interaction besides the blue apps and social media and everything else, which is totally different. But when you're able to have a space, place, and just having that true connection, it does lead to beautiful moments. And that's what Voices and Vision was created for that. It really, pushed that narrative that we need one another in this. So that's my biggest takeaway from that.
Thank you. The arts are, I think, one of the things that can get us thinking most deeply. And there are many arts at the Union. Tell us about the Union. What happens there with the arts?
The union is a social, artful vehicle and a space and a place where people can create in various disciplines. We have a ceramic studio. If you're interested, whether you're a beginner or advanced student, there's a space for you there. And we also have a fibers lab if you're interested in like textile, sewing. Um, Different textures, just creating from quilts to sewing a pillow. There's opportunity for you there. We have a dark room because it's a dying breed of art with the dark room, but we actually use black and white film. So we have a whole studio accessible for that. And we have classes and workshops that go on for all of our studios. And then we have a digital and screen printing studio as well. If you're interested in, I want to learn how to make a t-shirt. You can you can
Mm.
do those things, and we have all those materials. And we have beginners, people that are actual entrepreneurs that's in it. We also have a theater arts program. We have a theater. So if you're interested in doing plays or you're a playwright or if you just want to learn, you want to take some acting workshops, we have that as well. We also have a youth studios. That we have three programs embedded into that for our young people that takes place on Saturdays. We have
Mm.
family nights where families come from the community into space, and we have different activities with them on a monthly basis, which is really amazing, which is free. So if don't have the means or you just want to have a place to hang out with your family, that's cool, calm, and collective, and to mingle with other families, you can do that as well. During our family night, we have an abundance garden where we have programming around how to take care of your plants, how to grow your plants, how to do herbs. And it's a beautiful community garden where relationships are built, but we also talk about how we eat, and how it's grown, what we're putting in our bodies, and learning different techniques from nature. That's the beautiful part about the Abundance Garden. Then we have artist in residence program that we have. We bring in 3 artists a year from out of state. They come in and they navigate in our community and they create projects as well. So we're excited about that. That's our Studio 24 program. And then we have our Inside Out Fellowship, which we house 5 artists. Um, a year, and they culminate with a exhibition at the end of the year. We're gearing up for that as we speak. Um, and we're just excited to, our Inside Out Fellowship are local and regional artists right here in Omaha, Nebraska. And they embed into projects and we give them the space and the place to do that. They have 24-hour access to our facility to create.
Hmm.
They're not bombarded if they have different jobs, they still have access to work on their art. So it's so much opportunity and resource at the union that I feel a lot of people miss or don't know about. And I love, inviting people into space. Um, to just be. And like I tell people, if you're just not interested and you just want to come and just be in space, and people do, they just come and they just hang out at the union and have conversation, and then they eventually venture off to a studio space because they're like, wow, we're really interested. This is really cool, what we do. So it's such a blessing for our community to be able to have all of these, a cultural arts center right here that carries everything. I'm not from Omaha, but I will say the union is very special because I've lived in a lot of spaces and places, and there's no union. You may get
Hmm.
variations or different pieces, but there's not a space that, has all these unique multidisciplinary um opportunities in one space, like a one-stop shop, so that's what makes the union truly stand out on a nationwide scale. And I love it when other artists, other organizations, they come and they visit, they was like, wow, this is what we mean when we tell our our government or funders, this is what we want to build, so that's what makes the union special.
Awesome. Looking through some of those things that you're talking about, I was trying to follow along, poking around the website, and it looks like there's partners that have been part of the journey. I'm seeing a community resource exchange and a uh, social architect entity.
Hmm.
And what has that journey been like? Creating the strategy and bringing it to reality.
Absolutely. So with Community Resource Exchange, CRE, they are a resource that we're one of the grantees for the Wallace Foundation with a 4-year initiative. And Community Resource Exchange helped the union strategize in our strategic plan. They also allow mentoring to our staff, to have that one-on-one mentoring to my executive leadership. They have just been, as the title of their name, they've been a great resource in growing and just being that support. that I will give kudos to Wallace being able to see that these resources, when you talk about well-being, that's needed. And that's what CRE is to us. They give us the opportunity to have that space and one-on-one time to grow professionally with them and to be coached. So they have been amazing with my team and with the organization, and especially they wrote a beautiful strategic plan that is amazing for our organization. Social Architects, led by Davina Jordan. Out of Atlanta, Georgia. She came up and did, her and her team came up and did a where Voices and Visions started was with Social Architect, uh, did a comprehensive study on our theater arts program to kick off and community leadership guidance for our staff and for our community. And at the end, we received a report of the needs and how we need to kick off our theater arts program and for future to come, and also how to set up to have these types of conversations like you experienced during our Voices and Visions, and how to be more interactive with the community and being more intentional in how we move in our space and what conversations and what programming we also need, and truly how to listen to the community. Because a lot of times we'll have these listening sessions and it's like, oh, yeah, this is what people were saying, but how do you be intentional about how you move to put those things into effect and what that looks like for your organization? So that's where social architects played a huge part in having us to gravitate and how to really brand voices and visions and moving forward and doing it in other areas in our programming as a whole for our organization.
Cool. That's awesome. It sounds like that it's like they like partnered and like brought wisdom of working with organizations to like express what's already there. Like that that's cool. And I got to see it in action. That
Yeah.
was delightful. I'm trying to think of another event anywhere that I've been to like that where the food was so good. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then the spotlighting of other community builders. What did people just show up, or were the other people who were working in community like invited, or I, what was that like?
Both. Both.
Okay.
Leo, he sent special invites out, like, I really need you to be there. And then of course we publicize, I mean, it's open to the free, open to the public, to come out in it. So you really don't know who's gonna show up in space.
Yeah.
You just have to be, prepared and intentional about those conversations. But and the people that do show up, they are intentional about being there. So the hard part is, already done for you, and that's been the beautiful part about it. And even more so, like, I love it when it's like first time people like, oh, I just showed up because I thought this was a cool event, you know and
Mm-hmm.
it just gives them an opportunity to engage even more, because there were a couple new people that was like, I haven't been to the union since you guys opened, or
Mm.
haven't been in a while, or so you do get those that come back. So re-engaging, recultivation is so important as well, and that's what makes Voices and Visions so important for our organization.
Yeah, this one of my Gallup strengths is connectedness, and
Hmm.
I'd recently stumbled across a documentary called Join or Die. It sounds ominous, but it's a health statistic that if you're not socially connected, joining a group is as good for your health as it cuts your risk of dying within the next year in half. I
Hmm.
was blown away by that. And it's this notion of social capital. And when you mentioned like this is a place where you can come and just be, and then you described how sometimes people get drawn into the arts, like that was it called that to mind. So um
Mhm.
it was something that I had a brief moment to speak with the director of the filmmaker behind My Omaha. And
Nick, yeah.
listeners, you definitely want to check out this My Omaha. It's myomahafilm.com. And if you're curious about this other one, Join or Die, it's joinordiefilm.com. It's in my impression was that Nick is intending to facilitate community conversations around the film. So
Mhm.
is did you get that sense too, or is
Well,
that
he's been doing that, but they were doing it like directly after the film, or they were doing
yeah.
it before on some. It depends on what time the screenings or what have you. He was doing them before and after. He and Leo. And he wants
Mm.
to keep those conversations going, and keeping the, like, okay, what do we do now? Because that's really where the film really leads you. Like it gets you thinking about your circle, thinking about where you are right now in Omaha and just in life in general. Um, and what do you want to do now for your community? And that's why I say, I told him, I was like, this film truly, I feel is like everybody in America needs to see this film, because regardless if you're in Omaha, this is like a transitional story of many communities, in their own way. And it does leave you thinking, because there's so many layers in the film that is so beautiful, and mine just mind-boggling that, like, yeah, there's some conversations that need to be had. And that's the beautiful part about it. But people have to have that space and place to do those things. Um, and the conversations don't always have to be huge. They can start off small, so I'm excited. But yeah, I think he's going to continue on. I mean, seeing where it's going and then trying to see where everything leads. And definitely, I know he's trying to do more film festivals as well.
Join or Die and My Omaha are fantastic to get conversations started.
Join or Die. I'm definitely have to check that out.
I've had the one of the directors on Zoom after a screening of it with one community, and then had, Rebecca Davis. She was on the podcast in the past. Oh, here's a random connection around this one. In the credits, I saw some of the foundations that had supported Join or Die, and I saw the Novo Foundation listed, which is one of the Buffett children, Peter Buffett. I figured it's in Omaha. Would it be something he'd be interested in being at and sharing his perspective on community? And he replied, he said, he was already scheduled, but he was like, really happy about like seeing the film come out and roll out and sparking community conversation. I'm guessing probably some of the grant makers behind My Omaha are feeling the same way. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And they should
yeah.
feel very proud that they funded something so amazing.
CliftonStrengths. What has the journey been like for you? I am seeing self assurance, learner, input, arranger, and strategic. What does like maybe one or a couple of those mean to you?
Oh, absolutely. I was introduced to strengths. I took my first Clifton Strengths in 2007 or 8, somewhere up in there. I was still in graduate school, well, getting ready to graduate from graduate school. It was introduced to me from a professor, Professor Emiluth, actually, and she had our grad class take it, and it's been very interesting. So I've always like kept up with it. So of course mine have changed, but one that stayed the same, that never changed, was strategic. Um,
Mm,
that that's always been. All the rest of them changed, and some of them stayed the same, like you know. A couple. And it was just always interesting to me that strategic was all the way through for me. Um, on, since the first time that I took it. That is the one that did not, change. And it's very true. Um, so from that journey, graduate school, I mean, it does make you, and I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, strategize on, the art. Because going to an art school, you are so blessed to be able to be surrounded by brilliant artists, and all types of majors. Like I never, and to have that accessibility to every form of art. That's what made SCAD so beautiful for me, was the fact that, wow, I have access to all these brilliant minds. That's
Mm.
what I was thinking of, like here it is. I mean, there's the film school, which I did dabble into film as well. Into maybe I want to be a producer. So that was like a little minor thing that I took in graduate school because I was interested in screenwriting and producing. So I was able to produce some shorts while I was there and work on some shorts and write. So that was fun. Um, and textiles, I didn't know anything about textiles until I got to SCAD. Um, and just how beautiful and how that worked with one of my shows. And definitely, I had access to amazing photographers. So I have all types of, pictures and everything of me because I was, hey, these brilliant photographers like, hey, can you come be a subject? Sure.
Mhm.
Graphic design artist who I still use to this day. Just so much, and definitely like art history and of course all your visual contexts that were there. It was just always beautiful to have all these different types of conversations with all these artists. And so when I graduated from SCAD, I decided I took a job at my very first nonprofit, grassroots nonprofit, AWOL, which stands for All Walks of Life. And I became the artistic director there. And and I began really living my dream of writing and directing and working with young people because I always had a heart for young people. And I did that for 13 years. Like I lived in Savannah for
Mm.
13 years. Savannah is like my second home. I
Mm.
love it. It's the most beautiful city in the world.
Mm.
Um, and that's where it started. AWOL gave me the opportunity to know what it is to start from the bottom. Now like the really essence of when you talk about community and connection, it really started there. And I'm so blessed that I was able to learn how to embed into a community because I wasn't from Savannah, had no family. My very first trip to Savannah, I was a sophomore in college at Alabama State University. And my sorority, we had our regional meeting there, had never been.
Mm.
And I never forget. And I wasn't thinking about grad school then or anything like that. I had just pledged, and I'm like, just excited to be in the city. And I kept saying to my sorority sisters, I was like, "This is the most beautiful city I've ever been." And they was like, "If you say that one more time," I kept saying that, and then I was seeing like all the SCAD buildings because the thing about SCAD, we say we didn't have a campus, we had a city. So our
Mm.
buildings, every major had its own building. Um, and I
Oh.
just like, what is this Savannah College of Art and Design? Like, what is this? And so it was from there, that was the spark of it. And I just kept saying, this is the most beautiful city. I really could live here. Like I guess pre-speaking it and it happened. And so when
Mhm.
it came time for me to when it came to grad schools, SCAD came up and I met I'll never forget Professor Dennis Elkins at a conference at ERTA, and the rest is history. No, I met him at SCTC. That's where and the
Mm.
rest was history from there. It became between SCAD and Liverpool University, which was in England. And I was like, wow, do I want to go out of the country? And so it took a lot of I was glad that I had great mentors and great professors like Dr. Stewart at Alabama State that helped me really sit down and ask the hard questions. Like, okay, visiting a country and living in another country is totally different, you know, and the pros and cons of it, and the weight of the degree as well.
Mm,
Graduating from SCAD, like, yeah, your degree can work in another country, but graduating from Liverpool, it's only going to work out of the country. The United States doesn't honor it. So if you ever want to come back, it's like, you just traveled abroad. And I was like, and then, I was like, well, SCAD, I get to travel abroad in it. And I did.
mm,
I went to, we did Paris and we did all that and Lacoste. That was a program, out of the country program. And so I was like, well, that opportunity is still here. I could still, do that. And yeah, so SCAD was definitely a great choice for me. Because I think if I would have moved to Liverpool, it'd probably be a different track. I probably wouldn't be on this podcast talking to you. Definitely wouldn't be in Omaha, I'm
mm,
sure. But so that's where the beautiful journey started for me in learning community. It was living in Savannah, working at AWOL really gave me the opportunity of how to do the work and how to be intentional about the work and how to be effective in decision making and with people in community, and understanding that every community is different. It's not going to be the same, and every community doesn't have the exact same need, or and how to strategize. Every strategy is different in each community. So I've been blessed to live all over this beautiful country and work in communities and different nonprofit sectors as well as the school system, to learn, just learn people and spreading art, and giving them art and how to integrate it in our lives where it's supposed to be normalized and not a privilege, but normalized, that this is your everyday, that you need it for survival, and that well-being, and that mental. And it's been a beautiful journey that has truly led me to the union, and choosing the union for contemporary art to be in all the places and spaces I've been. As I said earlier, the union is everything that I've done in my career in one space. And that's what's exciting for me, is that I have the opportunity to do all the things that I love in one organization. And that's the beautiful, kind of like full circle moment for my career of being at the union. That makes it so beautiful, of being able, when you talk about food disparity, that started with me in Savannah. Like, I didn't understand how food and art was connected. And until I really talked to my students and they didn't know what a rutabaga was, or even a carrot, or that there's a such thing as a purple onion. And
mm.
it was like, I've never seen an onion, like that's really an onion, and how to use onions, and you're like, I'm just the theater arts director. But it does matter, you know, how they eat, what meals they get, what their energy looks like when they come to rehearsal, and
Mm.
how you invest and how you teach them about having a meal and sitting down and doing those things. So um, it's been a beautiful full circle moment here that I'm able to bring those things to life. So that's why food for me, I care about, it matters to me. Like, I love it when people like, the food was amazing. Like, yes, yes. It really, blesses my soul with that, because conversation is different when you have good food, when you have it, it makes you talk more. It's like somebody really put thought into like feeding me, and not just throwing
Mm.
something out for the sake, oh, we put some refreshments out. and just being
Yeah.
that intentionality, it does help with conversation. So,
Yeah. It's in the first, you are making me think of the first time that I was on a podcast, and I had this idea of, getting a neighborhood association going, and they said, why do you want to do this? Like, was there something that's, you know, a burr in your saddle under your saddle? What? And I was like, well, I love the neighborhood. This is like Havelock, the neighborhood in Northeast Lincoln, and I think of it as kind of like the Benson of, as a comparison or something. But it's like, well, it's pretty beautiful. I
mhm.
like it. What's going on? Like, is there an upper limit of awesomeness? That was, that was kind of the thought behind it. So you just kind of reminded me of that, of like this beautiful
Mhm.
community dialogue, and then let's add great food. And it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of one of those things. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because it does matter. When people walk in and they see like, wow, the presentation is nice, like, wow, they're doing this for little on me. And that's been one of the huge compliments we've gotten at the union when people come in like, wow, you did this for me as if they didn't deserve it. I'm like, you deserve this. So
Mm,
it's the little things that matter. Like it doesn't have to be a fancy gala or, a $10,000 ticketed event, for you to have quality and to have care. I believe that comes naturally, and people should be able to experience that no matter who you are. And that's one of the beautiful things that I'm very intentional about with the union, that when you step foot in our doors, that you feel the love. Like,
mm,
we had a huge potluck yesterday with the staff, and everybody was very intentional about what they brought, and, the presentation of it, and,
mm,
and just the love that they put into it and the fellowship. And we had our staff meeting like family style, and it matters. It helps uplift people in ways, because everybody's, life is life and everywhere,
mm-hmm.
you know and the last thing you want to come to work and be like, but I choose for my staff to be happy and know that this is an intentional place, because they are serving the community, and if they're not full and if they don't feel the love, then how are they going to give it? So it was just a beautiful moment yesterday, and we were able to share with community, pass holders and workshops they brought to the potluck. So the potluck grew from 11
Mm-hmm.
o'clock. At the end of the day, we had a whole Thanksgiving layout, but it was beautiful though. Just and people were able to talk about, their dishes. It really, people brought childhood dishes, ethnic dishes, and it was beautiful. I will say I had some amazing curry. Me and Nathan Murray, who
Mm.
Macon, um, we were sharing our recipes of curry, and I'm like, well, how did you get it like this? And so it's fun being able to spark different conversations and seeing who you work with on a human level, you know, and that matters in well-being and team development, and just learning each other and just accepting each other for who everyone is, and understanding. It brings an understanding without it being forced, like
Yeah.
it was very natural, so, and that's how I like to do things. I think it's better. I never try to force relationship. I tell my staff that I was like, it's gonna take you time to learn. You're not gonna learn anybody overnight when they're still
Mm-hmm.
learning themselves. But be intentional, and, show up, and show up your best self, and know that it's gonna come slowly but surely. It will come, and it will be beautiful, and it will be authentic, because that's what matters, and that's what lets relationships sustain, when they're authentic.
Yeah. plus food. uh, as you were talking community food, and this and you mentioned film. This one came to mind. It's called Babette's Feast. Is that one that's ever crossed your path?
Oh, but I would like to see it. It's
I
called,
think, yeah,
yeah,
Babette's Feast. It's like a it's set in a Scandinavian country. It's it's got the subtitles, but it is
yeah.
a beautiful movie that's like at the intersection of all that. Like
Hmm.
um okay, so as you were talking, I heard you mention a few professors, couple people. I was wondering, along the way, is there was there a difference maker that you'd like to sort of give a shout out to, or someone present or something that someone that made a difference in your life?
Oh my
Maybe.
gosh. That is like a slew.
Mhm.
Wow. Um, Definitely because your life is in seasons. I truly
Mhm.
believe that. And in those seasons, I've had I've been so blessed to have amazing people that spoke in those seasons of my life, and people that I'm still connected with that still push. But I would have to say Tony and Davina Jordan, who now runs social architects and who were the founders of AWOL, definitely have been the long haul career, mentors, friends. I would say family at this point, um,
Mm.
that have truly sown and cultivated, and held me accountable, because a lot of times, you will have people that'll let you like swallow when you do doubt yourself, but they have been the ones that's like, no, 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 keep going. Don't stop. Don't you
Mm.
stop. You have those, friends and those advocates that do that. Definitely Dr. Stewart, that my from college, from Alabama State, for
Mm.
sure, spoke life into me, like this is where you're going to be in leadership when you didn't see it in yourself. Those are the people that you want, that's not telling you what you already know, but telling you what is about to manifest in you. It's
Mm.
important. And man, so many people. Definitely Dr. Elkins from SCAD. That season, I'll never forget. I wanted to quit graduate school. I was like, man, I'm over this. Like this is crazy. And he really like, Lakeisha, you're having a moment. So that's when I learned about moments. He was like, this is a moment that next week, this time, you're going to be in another moment. And he was like, so it's what you do in those moments that create the lifetime. So are you going to take this moment and make it be a lifetime decision? Because quitting graduate school is a lifetime decision.
Mhm.
And are you just going to let this moment be pissed off in this moment, acknowledge that you're pissed off, and then move on? And I was like, dang, okay. And so it's those people that, that have helped shape who I am. Um, and you have to be intentional about who is connected to you and what they're giving you, because I'm very heavy on, to be really really close to me, you have to be able to call me on my stuff and be able to keep me accountable. I don't want people that's around me to not hold me accountable, because that is when you go into a spiral, or you go into a or you can stay in negativity. I cherish my friends that are positive, that are realists, that hold me accountable to
Mm.
make sure that I stay my best self, because you can get comfortable
Nice.
you achieve and then you're like, oh, I can just cruise out here. I don't have to push myself. I don't have to, and that's one thing that I can say that Davina does for me. Like she's like, okay, you threw Vincent. Okay, cool. All right, so what you gonna do about it?
Mm. Mm.
So I love the push forward, I have to have that. That's what drives me. People, innovative people, that like we identify the problem and then we're like, all right, what's the solution? How we're going to execute and move forward and not dwell in it. Man, it's so many people that even all the way down to my pastor. I'll never forget. And he just passed away, my childhood pastor,
Mm.
Reverend Jordan. And man, he was like a hero to me because he was ordained, baptized, and licensed by Dr. Martin Luther King. So I always thought that was the coolest. When every time somebody
Mm.
asked me to bring up a history fact, I was like, well, my pastor was baptized by the Martin Luther King, at 14. But one thing I will say when you talk about like really starting the career, I will take it back to him.
Mm.
My very first play that I wrote was called A Black Man's Christmas that I did at church. Had never
Ah.
been to play before. They wanted to do something different at church. And so I was like, well, I'll write a play then. And I'll never forget, that was the very first boardroom, because at our church we had a boardroom that I had ever been in. Okay. And so here it is, 17-year-old me in this boardroom, and here it is, the whole Christmas committee and Reverend Jordan, and he made me pitch the
Mm.
show. And because normally,
Wow.
you're thinking in church, like, hey, like, you just let me do it. But he made me pitch the show and everything, and made me do a budget, everything. Okay, all
Ah.
the things. Keep in mind, I'm in high school. I'm a senior in high school. And at that moment, and it was like very serious. And I ended up passing the pitch, and and at that moment, that's when he told me, he was like, that's leadership. I
Mm.
learned, like, he was like, you're gonna be in rooms and in different places, and you're gonna have to bring your best always and always be prepared. And he used to always say this saying, I'm one, I'm only one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. And that I can do,
Mm.
I ought to do. By the grace of God, I will do. And that has always stuck with me. Like, you're not going to be able to solve all the world's problems, but you're going to be a fraction of making those problems easier.
Mm. Yeah. Wow.
And so it really started there, not knowing that my trajectory at that time when I was in high school was I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to law school. That was my, dream. And of course, all that changed with the thanks to Penn State. But it's the people that matter, and the people that you allow to plant seeds into you, because those seeds, you water them throughout the years, and sometimes they stay and they're there to see it, and sometimes they're not. And that's one thing I learned as an educator, like, wow, I'm teaching all of these elementary students, and pouring and sowing in them, and I'm not probably not going to see them ever again in life, or it's always great when I do see them. And it's crazy, they make me feel truly old when I see them, like, wow, you're in college. You having a child, like, what's happening here? Like, what? And to see them thriving, or to hear them say, like, you remember when you told me, so, definitely my
Yeah.
students, they've taught me a lot. They've taught me to be authentic. I say, if you really want to do this life, work with kids. Kids keep you
Mm.
honest, and they keep you authentic to yourself, because they're going to always be honest with you. If you really want to
Mm.
know if your outfit is cute, as a kid. They're gonna tell you the truth. They're not gonna lie. They're not gonna, so
Right.
I've been truly blessed to have amazing mentors, just amazing people throughout my professional, personal life that have truly sown, planted seeds, pushed me, and I'm so grateful for them
And
all.
and it sounds like you're kind of intentional about passing it on. Like, is that something that's continued outside the classroom too, and passing it
Oh,
on?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely passing it on. Because that's where your legacy lives. You know, I tell people when you die, you just out of the physical, but your legacy is forever. It's a spiritual thing that lives on. That's why you'll hear people's names all the time because they pass it on. If you don't
Mm,
pass on anything, it dies when you dies. And then it's like, what was the point? What
yeah.
was the whole point of your dash? Because that's the most important thing on your tombstone or on your obituary is that dash. From the time you were born to the time you died, what did you do? That dash signifies your journey, your life. What did you do? What did
Mm, mm.
from that time, what did you do? And that dash carries so much. And, I am nothing if I don't pass this along. It's been too rich. And that's also selfish for you to just take it to the grave with you. Um, but to live it, and if you've done all these amazing things and all this amazing work, you want it to continue on. You want it to outlive you. I want this world to be an even better place when I leave it, you
Mm.
know. So that is very important to me and being intentional, especially, because I've traveled around and I leave cities better than I found them, you know.
Mm.
Um, that's my intentionality of moving and just being in space that I can always go back to those cities. Most people that travel, they're like, did you leave the city because it was something wrong? I'm like, no, it was just my time was just up there. Like, I love Warsaw, Indiana. Love that community, and I know I could go back there anytime, any place, and be just if I was still there, because that's just how beautiful the city, the people, the community, was to me. And that's pretty much everywhere I've lived. Like, I'm very intentional when I do move to different spaces and places, that it's not just, oh, I just want to move and just do this, but what am I going to give this community?
Mm.
Where do I fit in? Why? Why am I needed here? So those things matter to me, in how I leave things and just how people feel, and what legacy you leave in certain spaces. So I've just been truly blessed to live in some pretty cool spaces, and I've met some amazing people. And I'm grateful.
Awesome. I love that your mindfulness about impact. You're thinking like, I leave cities better than I found them.
Hmm.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Is there, does it kind of emerge, or is there somewhat of a vision that you begin with for Omaha? What is, or yeah, what do you want to the future to be like when you're there, and if you're go on and find another place that you can be useful? How do
Hmm.
you want whatever has happened in Omaha to keep growing?
Man, with Omaha right now, I mean, it's the growth and the changing of the mindset, here, that there is joy. And that's what's being restored, especially in North Omaha, is that the joy of winning, the joy of progression, you know, the healing piece, that's coming along with it. That's the beautiful part that I like, and being a part of driving that with amazing leaders in the community. That is That's the legacy of me.
Awesome.
That's it. To train, to mentor, to because people look at what you do more so than what you say. Because you can say anything, but it's a whole nother thing when you have to put that to action. That's something my grandfather would say all the time. Like, yeah, you can sit and talk all of that, but can you back it up?
Hmm.
Will you be able to, so don't write a check that you know that you can't cash. So I
Hmm.
hold, dear to that. I mean, his words really hold even more profound today than anything, it's the truth. Like, so put out and hold yourself when going back to that accountability piece, don't hold the public or community to standards that you don't hold yourself.
Mm.
So if I'm telling the community we have to be excellent, I got to be excellent. I have to walk in that. If I'm telling the community you got to be authentic, I got to be authentic.
Hmm.
So you have to live those words that you want people, and you have to be intentional about those things of what you're holding other people. And also, there's grace. I have to, and this is something in the last like 3 years that I truly started truly giving myself more grace and people more grace as well.
Mm.
Like that is okay.
It has been a delight to have you as a guest on the podcast. I'm sorry that it has to come to a conclusion at some point. It feels like we
Yes,
could just
yes,
keep
I know.
going. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Where can people go to find out more?
Follow us on social media, Union Omaha, on Instagram, the Union for Contemporary Art on Facebook, and definitely keep up with us. Hit the like button, hit the follow button. We are on LinkedIn as well, and just come join us and definitely stop by. We are on 24th and Lake, the home of the Deuce. We would love to have you. If you're visiting Omaha, definitely stop by the Union for Contemporary Art. It's it's amazing. It's an amazing place to be.